Hey everybody, before we get into this week's episode, I just wanted to say there were a few teething issues with this one. We were really trying to find a format and formula that worked for us, and this episode being as long as it is has a few technical difficulties, especially towards the end of it. There's overlapping audio issues and we're not just talking over each other, it was corrupt files because there were so many of us and because we were talking for so long. So needless to say, going forward after this episode, we cut down the number of hosts and we cut down the number of episodes that we talk about per episode. We kind of bring it down to about 2 or 3 per episode now. Both hosts and episodes of Bleach that we're covering. So hopefully you understand. Please don't judge us too harshly based on this episode. I know it was a bit rubbish. We were still finding our feet and hopefully you still enjoy it regardless. Thanks. Welcome to TheSeireitei, a Bleach podcast brought to you by Tatsuki's karate class. I didn't want to do the advertisement, but she threatened me. Today I'm joined by the lovely Del.
Hello, everyone.
Shiki.
Hey, guys.
And Elv.
Hello.
And I am Lethan.
Sorry.
And I am Lethan. So guys, today we are going to be looking at the 4 episodes. We had the 4 episodes of the Bleach anime that we were going to be watching. And Elv, I think you're going to start us off with a recap on episode 4.
Yep. So, in episode 4, we get into the story of the cursed parakeet, as I'm fairly sure it's labelled that. Don't actually remember. I think it is.
That's the episode title in English, yeah.
Okay, cool. So, got it right at least. So, we enter the episode with Chad. So, we already know it's going to star. Chad's going to be a big feature in this episode. We see him find the parrot. Well, parakeet. Same. Gonna get that mixed up this entire time.
Don't worry about it. We know what you mean.
Yeah. We have the encounter of seeing that it's a cursed parakeet when he runs into a bit of trouble with a falling beam and then gets a couple other things. He's just having the worst time with this parakeet, but he keeps, carrying it around. We also get to see some flashbacks to Ichigo and Chad's past and how they know each other, which is a fun thing. And we also get to see Ishin actually do his job as a doctor, which I never thought we'd actually be able to see that in the anime. But that's something that happens, and Chad is one of the patients that he's seen to. And it's shown that there's a big bruise on his back that's totally not come from a hollow at all. And then it goes into Karin having a really bad feeling about the parakeet, which, shines some light onto her not so normal powers also. Okay, so then Chad is on this race of a lifetime to keep this parakeet safe, even though the parakeet keeps telling him to abandon him. If I was Chad, I probably would have. And then we have, obviously, Ichigo and Rukia coming along to save him. We get to see Ichigo using some spiritual pressure sensing, which is something he never does ever again, really. And yeah, no shade to Ichigo, but come on, mate. You did it in the first few episodes. You should be fucking better at it. And then the Hollow comes into things. And then we have Rukia attempting to fight, so she gets back into it, even though she's an Ikigai. And that's basically the quick overview of that episode.
Excellent. Now we come into episode 5. And this episode starts off where we get a bit of a lengthy recap, I thought, of the previous episode, starting right at the beginning. Like we hadn't just watched it, but sure. And then we see Chad, effectively, this hollow that's shown up. We see Chad starting to try and fight this hollow off. And he's punching the hollow, and the hollow and both Rukia are like, oh my god, can he see it? No, he can't. He's just sitting there punching air. Then he proceeds to show off the strength that we already saw in that previous episode where he took a steel beam across his back. Mm-hmm. He now rips a TV post up out of the ground and brings it down on top of the hollow's head, which is very impressive, to say the least. And in the manga, I would say there was a tiny little sketch of a boy who was complaining that his TV cut out at that moment, which was quite funny.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I should have kept that in the anime. God damn it!
I know, and there was somebody else shouting, I think it was his granddad or something in the bathroom talking about the hot water or something. I can't remember. It was something funny though.
Great.
Then it turns out this Hollow, who we later find out is actually called the Shrieker, sends these little minions out of him that then attack Chad and Rukia. And obviously Chad can't see anything, so now he's relying on Rukia to guide him. So he's got the strength, Rukia's got the sight. And between the two of them, they start trying to fight back on this Hollow. But the Hollow, surprise, surprise, has another trick up his sleeve. These little minions that he's fired out of himself can barf leeches that explode, because why not? But in order to make them explode, he has to ignite them with his tongue by making a high-pitched noise. So the Hollow's managed to get a hold of the bird. That's what I'm going to call it. I'm not calling it a parrot or a parakeet because I'll forget and I'll say it wrong. I'm just calling it bird or bird boy because the boy's soul's still inside the bird at this point. And threatens to explode the little parakeet or the little bird instead. Rukia decides, okay, right, I'm going to take this fight away from here, so she runs, and obviously when we find out about the Hollow's past, he pursues her, and we find out why. Because Ichigo shows up, and then there is a monologue. Of course there's a monologue, there always has to be a monologue. And we find out that this Hollow used to be a serial killer and stabbed the boy's mother multiple times before finally killing her. However, the boy grabbed him and he tumbled off and fell off a balcony and died. So to get back at the boy, he sucked his soul out, stuck it in a bird for an long game of chase because he is that twisted. The episode ends with Ichigo getting pissed, to say the least. He pulls the tongue out the Hollow and then slices and dices, and we get the overview of the hell doors opening and the Hollow being dragged in, which was quite interesting. And then it brings us to episode 6.
In episode 6, we start off by seeing Rukia has to restock on items for her Gigai and other toys. So we're going to soon see Mr. Sandal Hat, Kisuke Urahara.
Oh, does he call him Sandal Hat in
Yeah, I think
later on
they call him Sandal Hat.
Yeah.
I thought they called him Hat and Clog. Oh,
yeah, Hat and Clogs in the dub. It's Hat and Clogs in the dub. That's interesting.
Which is a pretty catchy way to say it. I would assert.
It's totally better.
Rukia had ordered a special item, and we will soon learn that that is the soul candy.
And not Chappy.
Yeah.
Not Chappy.
Not Chappy. So, Rukia goes to school and kindly whisks away Ichigo with a nice gut punch.
As you do.
Yeah, as you do. And shows him his new toy. Or her new toy. But
Whoa.
it's called a Ginkongan, or the Substitute Soul. This was, like I said, renamed to the Soul Candy by the Soul Reapers Women's Association to be cuter sounding. I say that was probably Yachiru's doing.
Probably, yeah.
I don't think Nanao made that her priority, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Yachiru's in charge of the women. Anyway, we'll come to that. We'll come to all that later episodes, it's fine.
Yep.
This is a pill that lets Ichigo pop out of his body and have a substitute soul take over, so no one is the wiser. However...
Sounds like drugs to me, but, call it what you want.
I'm with Elv.
Mm-hmm. Ichigo and Rukia run off as they receive orders to take out a new Hollow, and we cut back to Urahara's shop to see that Ururu got the item labeled defective for Rukia. This mistake becomes apparent when we see the Ginkon break a fence in a test of the new body. The Ginkon apparently didn't get the memo that people don't normally jump up 3 stories and through a window to get into class, which...
Really? I do that. That's a normal thing.
Well, you're Australian. It's different.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I forgot that not
kangaroos.
I'm sorry that not all of you can be as cool as us Aussies.
Gotta run away from all of the spiders.
No, we're running towards the spiders.
Oh, forgive me,
Ginkon definitely loves the attention, because he was soaking that up when we went through the window. And apparently he also loves the ladies. It was at this point.
Who doesn't?
I mean, same.
Yeah. But it was also at this point that I realized my sister was actually watching the show with me because we get a nice focus on Orihime's boobs.
Of course you do.
The Ginkan shows chivalry isn't dead by kissing Orihime's hand, but the girls of Class 3 don't seem to take too kindly to this. Ichigo and Rukia return to school to find things are going great. As a desk flies out of the window. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Tatsuki apparently doesn't appreciate being kissed on the cheek and goes on a rampage to murder Ichigo.
As you
Rukia
would.
and the real Ichigo to the rescue, but the Ginkan fights back as the class looks on, seeing him kick nothing until Soul Reaper Ichi flies into a row of desks and the Ginkan runs for it. Ichigo has a realization of trauma as his high school life of being the cool kid is now officially over. Rukia comes to the realization that this isn't a regular Ginkan, but rather a mod soul.
No, really?
A
Really?
An illegal version of a Genkan substitute soul that were designed to be inserted into the deceased bodies in order to fight hollows. Rukia also levels up her art skills to animation. Project Spearhead, which was the project to make the Kaizo Konpaku, was terminated due to the use of corpses in fighting. All the mod souls were ordered to be destroyed while Ichigo doesn't like the idea of destroying souls just like that. Rukia states she will follow the wills of the Soul Society regardless. Meanwhile, the mod soul is frolicking about the city and performing feats of superhuman proportions while soaking up all the attention. The mod soul comes across a group of kids playing on their Game Boy Advance systems, showing the exact time frame this series was created.
Yes.
Yep.
The kids are talking about how creatures they created in the game should work properly and do as they are ordered or be terminated. This sets off the mod soul's temper, and he starts to attack the kids. Ichigo steps in to engage in round 2, to be continued with Dell.
So episode 7, we actually cut briefly to the gonna start that again. So episode 7, we actually start by cutting briefly to the Urahara shop, where Uru is feeling bad that she's made a mistake. She's upset. She's actually crying a little bit, and Kisuke approaches and comforts her in a show of almost parental affection, telling her that they're going to get it all sorted out, even though his shopkeeper pal Tessai makes it pretty clear that this rogue mod soul is gonna be a problem. So we know that we've got some folks on the ground who might or might not be set to deal with this issue. Cut back to the Ichigo versus Ichigo fight. They're both landing a couple of blows on each other, but then they get distracted when both Rukia and the mod soul independently sense a hollow approaching. So the mod soul books it because he becomes worried that this hollow will attack the kids who were formerly playing on their contemporary and exciting Game Boy Advance gaming system.
We all know it.
Advanced.
Yeah, no, I know, it's fabulous stuff. Maybe it was a Game Boy Color. It was actually hard to tell. But so he books it in one direction. Rukia and Ichigo split off in the other direction. Both of them are interested in circumventing this hollow that seems to be in the vicinity. So indeed, a hollow, which looks kind of like a centipede, emerges from the sky not too far away from these kids. And as Rukia and Ichigo are on the way, Rukia states that she's having some trouble with her soul pager, the device that she's been given to track hollows and keep them on her radar. So it might be worth noting that this is not the first time that she's experiencing difficulty with the technology from Soul Society that is supposed to be working correctly for her. So eventually, the mod soul reaches the hollow first, kicks it a couple of times, actually lands a few surprising hits on this hollow. He looks like he's doing a pretty nifty job, and then eventually gets beat in the shoulder. He's on the ground. He's bleeding a little. He's not down. He still looks like he's interested in fighting. But then Shinigami Ichigo arrives. He's got his big Zanpakuto, slices the hollow across the mask, and without too much trouble, and with an additional kick from the Mod Soul, who just like had to get that last blow in there, manages to send the hollow careening into the sky, where it disappears for good. The young kids are reprimanded by their gym teacher, who says they spend too much time playing video games, and that they're going to have to clean up some stuff after school because she doesn't believe that an orange-haired high schooler attacked them, which, honestly, fair. So, this problem solved for now. Ichigo confronts the Mod Soul that's possessing his body, and he starts to have a conversation a little bit about, hey, like, why did you care? Why did you step in? Why did you help these kids? And the Mod Soul reveals a fairly touching history, actually. He says that if he hadn't helped the kids, they might have been killed, and he's really not into the idea of seeing other people die because, as far as he knows, he was created, labeled as broken, and slated to be destroyed by the people who created him. And so he spent his entire life in fear of death, and eventually resolved that he wasn't going to let other people take control of his fate anymore. He was going to determine his fate for himself, and so he won't kill anyone, and he certainly doesn't want to see anybody else killed, which was like, thinking about the Mod Soul, who heretofore has remained nameless. Remembering who that character sort of develops into, hearing that, I was like, oh wow, you're far more multi-dimensional than a lot of the fandom gives you credit for a lot of the time, buddy. So that was kind of a nice thing.
Never again, though.
Yeah, well, we all start somewhere. So Ichigo and the Mod Soul are having this little heart-to-heart on a roof, and out of nowhere, we see Mr. Hattenclogs approaching. It's not explained even kind of where he comes from. He's just there. He takes his cane and he pops it into the Mod Soul's forehead. This little pill falls out the back. Ichigo's kind of like, WTF you doing, man? Then there's a cut, and you become aware that the whole entire staff of the Urahara shop is on the roof, so who knows who's manning that storage area or greeting customers. Shrug. So you've got Ururu and Jinta, the two kids, and Tessai, who is the one who actually runs things. He's the big dude with the apron and the glasses and organizational skills. So they have a conversation with Rukia. A lot happens in this episode, y'all. I know this is a little long, but it covers a lot of territory. Urahara says he wants to destroy the little pill that pops out of the back of the Mod Soul. Rukia, however, says she's completely satisfied with her purchase and doesn't want Urahara to destroy it, and besides, she's paid for it. He's like, I'll give you a refund. She's like, nah, man, I'm good. And mentions that they, the members of the Urahara shop, work, quote, outside the laws of Soul Society. Whatever that means. So Rukia then gives the little soul pill back to Ichigo, who ostensibly keeps it for a bit. Ichigo and Rukia walk home. Ichigo's not happy because his body feels like a freaking mess because the unnamed Mod Soul heretofore was jumping around fighting hollows, got Ichigo's shoulder all busted. Ichigo is not stoked, so he wants to like have a heart-to-heart with this Mod Soul. Rukia's like, we can't really do that unless we have a corpse. Ichigo's like, great, get us a dead body, let's make that happen. And then he comes up with a better idea, which is to put it inside a little lifeless plushie of a lion that he finds in the garbage. So he does so. The little lion starts talking. They start having their beef. The lion's not too stoked because he can't actually fight a human-sized person. The next day, Ichigo reveals that he's decided to call the Mod Soul, thank God I can finally say it, Kon, which is sort of short for Kaizo Konpaku, but he didn't want to call the Mod Soul Kai because he thought Kai sounded too cool.
Oh, that's interesting. So,
yeah.
straight up, I'll let you finish first and then I'll make my comment.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll get into the chat, but this I watched this episode in Japanese, by the way.
Yeah, that's why my comment.
we can probably get through the rest of this pretty quick. We roll up at school again the next day. Ichigo asks Rukia whether she's erased his classmates' memories again. She reveals that indeed she has. Ichigo's starting to wonder how he feels about that. Iconic moment as we roll up and the girls are sharing some art projects about what they're going to be like in the future. Tatsuki, badass motherfucker that she is like, I'm going to be a martial arts champion, and she draws herself holding a belt. Orihime shows herself as a cyborg that shoots flames from her eyes. She calls it a masterpiece. All the other girls are like, I was not expecting that. And Orihime reveals one of the most charming sides of her personality, in my opinion, by showing this masterpiece that she's created. We also get a brief shot of a boy that I don't think we've seen in class so far. He's got black hair and glasses, and he looks like he's doing needlepoint. Bet that's not important. Ichigo comes in, and Orihime says he feels a little... glasses. Yeah, no, I know, because of... oh, sweet Megane-kun, it's like my favorite trope ever. Ichigo comes in. Orihime remarks that he looks a little off, a little upset. Tatsuki asks what date it is. It's June 16th today. Tatsuki says, okay, great, makes sense. I know why Ichigo's not seeming like himself. He's gonna skip school tomorrow. Orihime's kind of like, oh, that's a little odd. I wonder what's going on. Cut to evening at the Kurosaki home, where Ishin, who is the chairman of decisions for the next day, has appointed Karin as chief of staff and Yuzu as the lunch officer. There's clearly a family planning event going on. They're putting together a picnic. They're making plans to go somewhere. It's still not revealed quite where just yet. So Ichigo returns to his room. Rukia, of course, is there hanging out in the closet like she does. And she says, oh, that meeting looked like fun. And Ichigo says, yeah, kind of, not so much. Hey, by the way, do you think I can take the day off of being a substitute Soul Reaper tomorrow? And Rukia's like, no, you can't.
Yeah, just not save somebody for a day, you know?
I know, exactly.
Just,
the thing that's brutal is,
anybody?
like, it is legit not how that job works. Like, I mean, well, maybe there's like a 2 weeks notice moment if you're actually a part of the hierarchy of Soul Society. I have no idea. But as it is, Rukia is like, no, you can't do that. That's not how this works. And Ichigo reveals that he wants to take the day off because the next day, June 17th, is he starts off and he says the anniversary of his mother's death, and then he amends it to say, no, actually, it's the anniversary of the day she was killed. And it begins to rain outside. And you get a quick shot of Orihime looking out the window, wondering if she were the rain, could she connect with someone's heart like the rain connects the sky and the earth, which is just beautiful. And there's a lot of rain imagery that'll come up later, and this is kind of the start of it, so that's kind of nice. Ichigo has a bad dream wherein we see a little flashback of him as a child and his mother, and then meanwhile, in a place that we haven't seen yet, where the architecture is a little bit different, a little more old school. There are a bunch of kids running around. There's a guy dressed like Rukia hanging out with these kids, who is approached by another guy dressed like Rukia, but who has a mask and some fabric covering his whole entire face, black fabric, and he says, hey, we're having some trouble. The 13th Division's Rukia Kuchiki has stayed too long in the human world. You want to do something about it? And this other guy, this first guy dressed like Rukia says, okay, yeah, I can be a little bit rough, but I totally get it. I've got a mission, and I'm going to make that happen. So that's episode. That was all one episode. I told you, man, we covered a lot of ground, a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
a lot
those
of loose
last
ends are
episodes
tied
very
up.
dense.
Yeah, and then a lot of little plot threads were sort of touched on and said, okay, cool. Like they clearly really wanted you to keep watching the show after they wrapped up a few parts of the previous mini arc, which I get. Nice work. So that's what we've got.
Yeah, no, I agree. This episode for me felt like it feels like the start. I don't know about you guys, but like all the fluff we've had before, but this is the in-depth stuff. This is the feelings now starting, that's going to take us through roller coasters and Bleach. Yep. All right, so what were our thoughts on these 4 episodes then? Who wants to talk us through their thoughts and opinions? Oh, wait a minute. Before that though, I think Elv, you said you were wanting to bring up something about the name.
Yeah.
Was it Maud in the dub, wasn't it?
Yeah. The reason what I was gonna bring up, which is interesting, which is part of the when we compare the manga and not the manga, sorry. The dub and the sub, which
And
was
the manga
a
too,
thing
yeah.
that I found very interesting was how Ichigo got the name was kind of obviously the same, but it's mod konpaku instead of I'm not even trying to pronounce what you said because I don't remember that Kai
Kaizen
one.
Konpaku.
Kaiser
So
Kopaku, yeah.
So for some reason in the dubbed it's mod konpaku. Cone wanted to be called Mod, like, Flash Bard Mod, it sounds better. I'm like, no, it doesn't, Cone. Cone actually does sound better.
Mod Psycho.
So it's probably,
Yeah.
or Con, however anybody wants to pronounce it, because obviously everyone's different. But, I definitely, I found that interesting, because Kai would have been better. That would have been a cool name, but not Mod. Because that's why I could never understand. I'm like, why do you want to be called Mod? Like,
And it's the same in the manga as well.
Good.
In the manga, it's Kai. He's like, oh, what would be called Kai? And he's like, no, you're getting called Cone because Kai's too cool. So in the manga, it was interesting because I was watching the dub and they're talking about Mod, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting difference. But it's good to know that was actually in the sub version.
Yeah.
That's something I also noticed because I watched the both sub and then the dub, and when I was watching the English dub, I was wondering how they were going to pull that off because I know they call it a matsu and they never mentioned Kaizo Konpaku. And they just, out of nowhere, take the name Konpaku just to shove it in there. Like the translation writers were like, shit, how are we going to make this name connect?
Yeah, it is a little goofy, especially considering they keep Zanpakuto and they keep a few, like they keep the names of the Keto spells
Like
and stuff too, right?
the Soul Burial is also it's Japanese
Kanso.
taken. Yeah.
Oh, they do call it Konso though in the dub.
Yeah, So if they wanted to call it Mod Konpaku the whole time, they could have gotten away with it, is I guess what you're saying.
They could have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for us meddling kids. And
it's true. We're here to show it's all your fault. Translation writers. Not that three of us could do your job. We're still going to be those guys.
Yeah, it's just. I remember that specific moment when he named him because I could just never got over Khan wanting to be called Mod because Flash Bud Mod, and I'm like, no, you have such a bad taste, and I don't know why that stuck with me. So that's when you said Kai, I'm like, now see, that's an actual cool name.
Yeah.
Unlike Mod, which is but that was specifically.
Yeah, the only justification I can think of is that it could be a commentary on what Cone thinks is cool, and he doesn't actually know what cool stuff is.
Yeah, I think
even that's a stretch.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to be called Mod anyway, because I would just always be Mod Soul, Like, he didn't think that one through, so it's definitely... He should be thanking Ichigo for calling him Kon, though Paku would have been a pretty cool name too. So, that's, again, probably why Ichigo didn't name him that, but it kind of would have been so much better called Paku, because that would have been so cute. You just take away his coolness a bit more, because Kon also sounds pretty, cool-ish compared to Paku, because he could have been, like, an adorable little lion like he's supposed to be.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I've got some notes here about what was different in the manga again versus like scenes and stuff that were taken out or changed. I don't know if you want me to go over some of these and it might give us some talking points.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So episode 4 then, one of the differences I noticed, and I wanted to ask Shiki this especially, was when oh god, what's Ichigo's friend's name? The guy that's like the ladies' man, the rich boy.
Mizuhiro.
That's it, yeah. When he shows up, I'm like,
when
he's
you say
the
ladies'
rich
boy, I think Keigo, and that's what I'm like, what?
No, but he's a wannabe ladies' boy, whereas the other guy actually gets them.
Yeah.
Mizuhiro.
Mizuhiro gets all the cougars.
He does.
It's actually canon. It's wild.
And it's so funny actually because it pops up with like a sign that's written in Japanese beside Rukia's head where he's like, no, I'm interested in older ladies, and it's like so much older pointing to Rukia. So you read it in the manga. Anyway, one of the things he says instead in the manga he says you must be in love to him and Rukia rather than saying, oh, you two are really chummy, which is what it changed to in the dub. Now I'm not sure, what did the sub say when he walks up to see they two, like when if Rukia's trying to stab her juice bottle carton with the straw?
Yeah, I believe they also use the you two must be in love comment as well.
Gotcha. Because I thought in Japan, like the declarations of love, that was like a really serious thing. Like you don't even have really parents that say that to their children. Instead, they say
Wow,
like they want them to do well.
Bleach is really putting in that Ichiruki versus
I know.
Ichihime. Like they really wanted everyone to fight over that. Like they should have been obvious at the beginning instead of throwing these curveballs to these fans. Obviously everyone's like their ship is completely valid, but like Bleach was just setting that up from the beginning.
There were definitely moments where I thought that. I think the chummy thing in the dub made more sense, considering where Bleach eventually potentially ends up. So the chummy comment made more sense to me than the you two must be in love, especially because in Japan, like, and this is what I wanted to ask Shiki about, is in Japan, that declaration of love is quite a serious thing.
Mm-hmm.
So why was he sort of tossing that word around? Any ideas?
I'd have to listen back to see the exact word he said, because there are like a couple of different words that you can use for saying I like you or I love you, because you can use skides, which is
Like, that's like a
like,
isn't it? Yeah, I know that
it's
one.
more like a friend, and then you have I, which is actual love.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be I love you, and if you try and say that to someone in public, they're just gonna freeze up. Even if you're dating, even if you're married, you don't just throw that around in Japanese culture.
Yeah, so that would be interesting. That would be really interesting. Another thing that was different as well is that two bullies actually show up before Chad does with his bird. One of them pulls out brass knuckles on Ichigo. And Chad is actually sort of introduced to Ichigo in this sort of group that's formed on the balcony area by Chad coming in and knocking these two guys out. And I'm like, that was such a random scene. And the whole time Rukia's sitting there still trying to open her juice. She's not even bothered that these two bullies have showed up with brass knuckles and are like trying to attack Ichigo. She's just like, how do I get into this juice carton? We don't see any.
I mean, I would ignore it too.
I mean, we don't see any of the Chad flashbacks about him meeting Ichigo either. They're not in the manga. And we see scenes of Karin and Yuzu at school, because it struck me actually in the anime you don't really see them at school, but in the manga you do, and they're in class and Karin is thrown up in the bathroom because she's seen, you know how she connected to that boy's soul, the bird, and she saw what he's seen, and he's seen his mother die in quite a brutal fashion. So she's in this bathroom throwing up, and Yuzu's really worried about her, and then and then Karin's like, I'm gonna head home, I'm not feeling well, and that's when she bumps into Ichigo. So it's not like she was in bed and just stumbles out of bed and goes looking for Ichigo. She was like on her way back from school not feeling well, which I thought was quite interesting. I wonder why they cut the scenes of the girls out of school, because there was a couple of them actually.
Yeah,
I imagine it was just to streamline the narrative.
Or to give the animators a break.
Always confused about why they do the things that they do. Maybe as a budget thing, they couldn't, get to like completely animate an entire school scene. I don't know. It's interesting. Some of the changes they do seem very unnecessary, where others are completely understandable. That one is obviously definitely part of one of those weird unnecessary differences, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, we don't really see the girls at school, and I guess I just thought they're more deemed to be almost housewifey feel to them, rather than them being actual kids that go to school. But anyway,
I mean, I guess that's what they need to put in place, though, is these kids have grown up so quickly. Yeah. Which I guess it is taking that step, is because Yuzu, that's how they cope. Yuzu cleans and became the mother, that's how she copes. You could even go into how much that's an unhealthy coping mechanism, or a healthy one, I guess. And Karin is this tough girl that just, is doing her best to just not be a burden by not crying and not being, not being an issue for anybody. She's just there. And I guess, I mean, taking the school scenes out doesn't take away from that at all, but maybe they just wanted to focus on the home lives, so you can get that feel of, this is what these girls do.
And they're older, they seem more mature. Yeah, that's true, because when you do see them in the elementary school and stuff, they do seem a lot younger, so maybe that is the route that they decided to go down. The other difference in the manga, and this comes into the next episode, was... and this is the brutality points, and I understand completely why they took them out. So Ichigo doesn't just, kill that hollow that was like attacking that parakeet, he almost tortures the hollow back. So he stabs him, and then he proceeds to like cut off his legs so that the hollow can't escape him. And then he calls the hollow a 4-star wanker instead of just a coward, as it's translated in the anime. A 4-star wanker, but then
I wish they'd kept that. Oh.
Yeah, it was so good. But yeah,
it's so annoying that I can't make the comment that I want, because obviously we want to, for newer people, we don't want to spoil anything, but that literally, without spoiling, that literally is a peek into Ichigo's personality that completely makes sense as to why later on this other personality that he will have is it is literally a reflection of him. It shows that no one actually realizes at the beginning that that other personality that he's going to have is not just born out of nothing. It's in Ichigo. It always has been in Ichigo. Mid will love me for saying this and commenting this part, but this other thing isn't born from nothing. It's Ichigo has this dark side, and it's scary. And I didn't actually realize that he did it until I watched it back, and I'm just like, this guy is a bit of a psycho. Like he's got a bit of a side to him, and it makes so much more sense for later on. And it's like, I love
because
it.
we seen it right in episode 1, don't we? Because these kids just knocked over a glass vase with some flowers in it. Like, there was no need to go to the extremes that he did of beating the absolute daylights out of them. But anyway,
but
he did.
Still more. Yeah.
But in this, he proceeds to cut the hollow's legs off so that it can't get away, and then he starts to explain how it feels, or how it must, like, this is how all of their victims must have felt, and then he proceeds to stab the hollow. It's really brutal what he does to this hollow, and then he finally
I'm so
takes
sad
it
they
out.
didn't include that.
Yeah.
Honestly, personally, it would have given that dark side to Ichigo that would have made a lot more sense later on with that thing that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been so great. But again, that's simply the generalizing it so it can be for a younger audience, so it's a bigger range of audience. So I understand why they did it. It's just a pity. It goes back to what I said in the last episode. I mean, Bleach would have been a lot darker if they had left us all in it. It would have been, I don't know, I think to me personally it would have made me love the series even more, because as I was actually mentioning to the other hosts before we started, there's a lot about Bleach that I don't like. I'm not a fan of. But making it a bit darker would have been actually kind of more intriguing, and keeping it, especially with the other characters that are in it, it would have actually made me like them more if they gave that darker depth to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's everybody else's thoughts?
I think, I took a couple of notes here. Something that I found not surprising, but I think I'd forgotten that Ichigo said this. If we're still hanging out in episode 5,
Mm-hmm.
The bit when Ichigo is talking to the boy about what it's going to be like when he follows his mother to Soul Society. So for one thing, oh no, you know what? I think this is actually Rukia's comment, because Ichigo says, okay, you need to pass on because your mother's there, which is something that he got from Karin. But then Rukia, when she's talking to the boy, what she says to the boy is, the Soul Society is a wonderful place and it's very peaceful and you'll never be hungry and it's nicer than this world. And when you don't know anything about Soul Society, you hear that and you're like, oh, that's pretty great. And especially, too, by this time, we've been introduced to the concept of hell. So we're aware that there are other places you can go after you die. And hell, based on those big, scary gates, and also common knowledge and understanding about the concept of hell, you're like, all right, cool. That's the place that sucks. Soul Society is probably more like heaven, or Soul Society is probably pretty nice.
I mean, it's not wrong to some extent, depending on the district. So
but that's exactly it. So, because at this point, we don't know very much about Soul Society at all, and without giving too much away for future episodes, when it comes to Rukia's character development and where she came from and all that, rewatching it and hearing Rukia talk about Soul Society in that way was really fascinating. Like, something that always comes up for me when I rewatch early episodes of Bleach is just how much duplicity and how much complicity as well exists within Soul Society and within the Gotei 13 especially. Like, there's a lot of shady and like high-key not okay stuff that goes on.
Yeah,
Project
totally agree.
Spearhead is like super not okay.
Yeah.
But there were clearly
mean,
multiple conversations about it in Soul Society.
Yeah. I guess if I could even just say a spoiler alert so some people can skip over it, like, literally with the whole district thing, it's technically still not a spoiler, but the whole differences of Soul Society, it's interesting to, obviously Rukia said it because it's that calming factor and it's that not wanting there to be fear within this process of moving on.
It is also literally a straight up lie. It is a straight up lie.
I was about to say, her pants are on fire.
No, but it's not though. No, but it's technically not because she doesn't know which district this soul can be in, because we all know that District 1, for example, is one of the most, that district in itself is the best one to live in. It's literally shown that it's one of the most populated, poorest, and like it has all these amazing things, and that's what she was explaining. So technically, in a way, she's not lying. She's just describing the districts that are closer and more populated and have that luxury, and that's where they, that's what she's explaining. So technically, she's not wrong. But again, we don't know how it's picked where the souls go in which district. It's kind of more of a fan theory of mine that maybe it depends on what you did in your previous life, even though it wasn't damnable to hell. Perhaps where you end up in the districts is maybe kind of to do with that, because it's very interesting. Like, why is it grouped that way? How come somebody gets put into one district that might be really shit compared to others being put into one where you can literally live the best life that you could have.
I mean, right, we'll come to all the Soul Society stuff, I think, in later episodes, because I was about to start a discussion there.
I know, I was itching for it too.
Have we seen any of the districts where they are treated really, really well?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so we'll
if you want to have a discussion, you just at me after this, because I'll happily talk to you about it, because there's literally, it's in the second season, where they end up is literally,
I also had another internal thought when I was watching this episode and we were talking, and it goes into Soul Society as well. Now, I'm not sure how canon this is, and I'm not even sure if they cover it that often in the future seasons because I really don't remember, but Chad is saying how if he ever passes on and meets him in the next life, how he wants to talk with the boy again, carry him on his shoulders, things like that. We know later on that the boy remembers Chad. I think it's like a short scene. However, no, that's not why I'm not sure if it's canon or not. In the movie Memories of Nobody, if I recall right, Rukia says souls remembering their past lives in the Soul Society is very rare.
Yeah, Kisuke said that too.
That is canon,
because
I believe,
Ichigo asked Kisuke, and he said no, it's never been heard of before. So I was actually going to comment on that too, but obviously because we cut the conversation short because we're going to further into it.
Yeah, it's definitely a conversation I want to have later when we get there.
Yeah, I think all definitely
it's a pity
when we get to that point. Okay, so the other differences that I noticed from the manga then was that you can get bonus money, or Rukia can actually get bonus money for killing hollows from Kisuke. So, and this is where we get the names. This is where we get the names of the hollows. It is. It's like a game. Genuinely, that's what I was thinking.
Wow.
So then she's like, okay, well, he's like, right, let me see what hollows you've killed. Okay, you killed Fishbone, which was the first hollow. He says you're getting no points for that. You've killed Hexapodus, which was the one that was chasing the little boy. You're getting nothing for that. Acid Wire was the name of the one that was wearing Orihimi's dead brother. You're getting no points for that. But any awards are 5,000 of whatever this currency is for the Shrieker, which was obviously the one that had killed 2 Soul Reapers previously. And I was just like, what? What?
That would have been fun to include.
I think it's because she actually had to suffer through the death of the Shrieker. With the other ones, she didn't. Ichigo did it all.
It was, it was more just the fact that they cut this out, but she holds up her mobile phone and she's like, I want the points, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm getting like flashbacks to modern day, like collecting subway points or something,
Oh, I love that.
Like how I cash them in for
that
upgrades.
Convoluted. Yeah, definitely.
And
sorry, that's just brilliant.
It was so good. It did make me chuckle.
I'm wondering what specifically is in it for Kisuke. Like, obviously, it's better for everybody if hollows that are causing trouble. I mean, honestly, it's not impossible. He probably doesn't have too much to do, like, truly. Like, when you think about where he's come from and now he's running a candy shop, like, bro, yeah, he probably needs something to keep himself entertained. I'm not going to say any more than that, but oof.
He could probably get discounts on some of his stuff. You know, he's an advertising man. He knows what he's doing.
It's true. He does know how to run a business. He is a canon genius, so I'll let that slide.
Yeah, and a scam lord. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Another thing is when Chad... Oh, go for it, Dale.
Nope, never mind. I was about to say something about Kisuke that I realize is going to be better suited for a much later date, so skip that and move it on.
Okay.
Never mind.
Grab that. Take a note of that and grab onto that, and we'll discuss that later, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. He's one of my faves, forgive me.
We see Chad still has the bird, believe it or not. So at the very end, Chad still owns the bird and still brings it into school, except now that it can't speak because the boy's soul has been removed out of it. So they're all like, oh, overnight its vocabulary has dropped quite dramatically. There's a scene where Orihime can smell Ichigo coming, apparently. So she's got like a sixth sense Ichigo. It was very creepy in the manga.
That's just creepy. Yeah.
Very creepy.
Thank you for getting rid of that.
I'm glad they took that out because that was stalker material. But another thing they added into the anime, which I was like, oh, that was interesting, is in the manga, Ichigo calls Rukia's drawings cute and not sucky. And then in the anime, he's like, oh, they suck, like the first time that they meet. And then she punches him or decks him again. But in this, he says that they're quite cute. And then there's there's another scene with Yuzu and Karin at school. You know, those boys that are playing the Game Boy Advance that Kon jumps by. Mm-hmm. Karin and Yuzu are in their class. And so we see them. And then there's a moment where Kon is jumping in Ichigo's body quite severely above walls that he shouldn't be able to reach, and Karin and Yuzu are both sitting there going, oh my god, like that's Ichigo, and then they're like, no, it can't be Ichigo, no, it's definitely Ichigo. And so Karin starts threatening anybody that thinks that it's her brother, because she's like, something's going on here that shouldn't be happening, and that was quite interesting as well.
I also noticed a few interesting differences between the sub and the dub in the earlier episodes as well. Mm-hmm. So in episode 5, this was probably the most prominent difference. When the hollow was threatening to blow up the bird with the little minions, in the dub, they were saying or acting as if Chad could hear it, because Rika said, make sure you listen to it and don't move or something like that. However, in the subbed version, Rukia actually informs Chad of the situation, telling him exactly what's going on, and says, don't move, otherwise he'll blow up the birdcage. So I just found that a weird little thing as well, because in the English version, they also did mention how Chad could not hear it when he was first fighting the hollow, but then just a few minutes later, suddenly apparently he can hear it, or they act like he can.
Yes,
like maybe it's the increasing of his spiritual energy. Perhaps it's that I mean, it's probably not, but I guess you could mistake it for him slowly getting those that spiritual pressure increasing as he's being in contact with this side of the world, which is technically how these powers, start to develop more, or at least in Ichigo's case, when he made contact with that girl, his spiritual energy started to spill out. Perhaps it's kind of the same in Chad's case. Maybe it's just his spiritual energy slowly coming out, or at least we could say that just to fix the plot hole. Any plot holes we can kind of fix, as we go.
That's what I was
There's too many to list, let's be honest.
It's either that or my thinking was it could have been also a translation and animation studio's choice to match some lip flaps when they dubbed it over is the other thought that I had.
Yeah,
I don't know, because I watched what did I do? I watched the first 2 in English and I watched the second 2 in Japanese this week. So I didn't do a side by side. I think I'm going to mostly do that, just kind of jump back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also in the episode 4, there wasn't too many like major translation differences other than the one that Lethan mentioned with the aren't you guys being chummy versus you guys look like lovers.
Oh boy.
I noticed with Ishin they made him a bit more comical in the situation where he was at the clinic and taking charge of things. So in the dub version, as you guys saw, he was saying, what was it? They wouldn't know a cell phone from a stethoscope, and also telling Ichigo to go curl up in the fetal position.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part.
Yeah.
Because he actually did it.
In the subbed version, instead of saying they wouldn't know a cell phone from a stethoscope, he says, "Damn underlings, they're always dragging their feet." And as well as just telling Ichigo to go hide in the corner and stay out of his way. So he takes a much more serious tone in the original.
That's kind of
I think that's
cool.
also humor based between culture. Perhaps that could be more so that way, maybe, because I mean they have like built up this image of what they want Ishin to be, and if they don't stick to that, it's kind of a bit too cutthroat between the two.
I think though the sub in this makes sense to what we find out about Ishin later. I think that the moment's so serious, it's just giving us pure comic factor from him all the time doesn't marry up to later. So I would have liked to
But he does have
more
serious moments.
It does, but not very often. Apart from in the next couple episodes.
There is more contrast as well, which, like, I'm constantly, and I know I've mentioned this before, and I'm sure it won't be the last time I do, constantly really impressed by Bleach's ability to have both, like, high stakes, intense action and drama moments as well as comedy. And I think Ishin at this point is a really good example of how all of those things truly can exist in one person, because he's basically pure comedy for the first 4 episodes or so, and now we get to see him in action, and by the time we finish this sequence of episodes, we also know that concretely that he has dealt with the death of a wife too. So like, he is a complicated man with a lot of different sides to him, and slowly we're beginning to see more and more of those.
Yeah.
And I guess you could argue that the comedy is not exactly comedy. It people do talk like that when they're angry, like
I was thinking about him punching Ichigo in the face to wake him up, but I hear that too.
No, I meant like that specific what Shiki like brought up. Technically, that's still not comical because he said it all in all seriousness. Because I know that I make those type of comments when I'm genuinely angry, and because he technically didn't say it in humor, it just seems like a humor because you could laugh at it, but also like you can tell he's frustrated because it's kind of like a dig at the people that he's talking about.
So I guess then, does that come back to sarcasm then? Maybe Japanese culture doesn't understand sarcasm, or the sarcasm we've got here, maybe that's what was leading that translation.
Yeah, that, or just not even just the sarcasm, but like he's practically calling them dumb without just saying they're dumb idiots, It's actually a really, I don't know, I like that kind of, because it's not technically humor. You could see it as humor, especially the fetal position part, but the only reason why you think it's humor because the next scene you see is literally Ichigo in a fetal position. But if we didn't have that moment, and if we had Ichigo like look hurt or angry, you wouldn't have taken it as humor. You know what I mean? So technically, that's I don't know. I feel that that's still very much in character for him. But I get what you mean with the
it definitely gives him a more dark humor and sarcastic personality.
Yeah, it does. And I think that is more relatable to an English audience. Then my other notes I've got for the manga being different coming to the final episode, and that was Kon kicked the hollow, and in the manga it's very obvious that he's kicked the hollow to protect the little scurrying ants that were underneath it that you later see him looking at. Because he didn't want the hollow landing on them and killing them, because who's he to decide what's worth more or less than another.
Why am I having cone feels now?
I know, honestly. I reread that part again a couple of times because Ichigo realises what he's done and actually calls it out in the manga, and he was like, oh, you were protecting the ants. And he's saying it as if he's looking down on him, which he is visibly in the manga comic, but he's like, well, who am I to say that this ant's life is worth more than anybody else's? It's the way that he then starts to talk about it is really, I know. So I was like, that was a really interesting moment. I wish they'd left it in because it would have just been like a couple more sentences in the anime, but they took that part out. Although you do see him.
Kind of sad.
You just
I
see
was
him
like,
beside
honey,
the
you
ants.
would get so many more girls if you were just like this all the time.
Yeah, but that's what I
Yes,
mean.
exactly.
I have a
Wow.
very opinion with Cone. They built up such what could have been an interesting character and completely, in my opinion, just threw it out the window. Because literally those feelings, that you have for Cone, they don't bring it back until like filler episodes, like when it comes the whole Nozomi thing. You don't really ever see him come back to those serious sides very often, and it sucks. Yeah, he's a walking, talking mod soul and a stuffed bullshit lion. However, he's just this comic relief gag character that not a lot of people like, actually, which is really sad because they built this entire episode and that entire monologue to give him some depth, and then they threw it away. They
And it was successful, by the way. I was feeling things. I'm still feeling
things.
things.
That's what I mean.
I wonder
Completely
if they keep that
agree.
much later on in the manga, though.
I'm wondering that too.
I'll keep you posted. Anything like that I see from Cone, I will let you and the listeners know, our beautiful
Please
souls.
do.
The other thing that that I saw, and this was quite funny, was when they had the mod soul candy, Ichigo and Rukia were waiting at the side of the road for a car to kill a cat. So they
Oh
could
my
pop it in a
goodness!
cat.
Wait! They were
I'm
waiting
so
so that
glad
they could
they didn't do
potentially.
that.
They were waiting so
Yeah.
they could potentially create a talking cat.
Yeah, they were going to pop it in roadkill.
No.
But
Oh no,
I'm
that's
thinking
fucked
about
up.
like we're not there yet. But it's
No, I
funny
know what you mean.
that
I
they
know.
were considering that, and I don't want to say
I wonder if they
why
were doing
just
a black
yet.
cat.
But that's funny.
That's
I wonder
good,
if that's
I
where
wonder
that
if they were
idea
doing a
came
black
from.
cat, they would have
Actually,
found.
More than likely, for sure.
can you imagine?
So funny.
Can you imagine coming to the
Oh
Urahara
my
shop
God.
and being like, "Hey, Kisuke, we found this cat," and Kisuke going, "You found which cat now?" Oh no! Nah, no.
It's
That
so
would never
funny.
happen.
That's so funny. Anyway, we see Ichigo thinking about calling Urahara Mr. Hat and Clogs as well, and it is called out in the manga as Hat and Clogs. So I think they translated that in the manga the same way they did in the anime, at least for the for the English speaking audience, because he can't remember his name. But there was such a cute panel, and I wish I can't remember if it was in the anime or not actually, but I don't think it was. But there was a moment where we see Yuzu and Karin cuddled up in bed together, sleeping,
Yeah.
on the eve of their
We did
mum's
see that
death.
part.
Did you see it? Right, okay, cool, that's fine.
I don't think it was on the eve of their mum's death. I think it was when Karin came back from the parakeet, and when she could finally sleep, Yuzu was also there with her. So
Yeah,
we've seen that moment.
This was after the meeting with her dad, where they were planning on what they were going to be doing for the next day, which we find out obviously is Ichigo's mother's death date.
It could have been that one too. I don't know. I just remember the scene.
It wasn't
It could
there,
have
I
been
will
either.
say. That one was a straight cut to Ichigo talking to Rukia after the family meeting.
Oh yeah, true.
There we go.
But I mean,
So
we've seen it in a previous episode, so it's
Yeah.
it was very cute. It just gave me all the feels from where it was in the manga, because obviously I know what's coming up here, and as Ichigo's talking about what's going on, and you just see these two girls curled up in bed trying to obviously comfort each other, I was like, oh, my heart. That's it. That's all the notes I've got for what the manga was different to the anime.
I've got a few more differences between the sub and the dub here.
Go for it.
Great.
One thing, when they were talking about the anniversary of of Ichigo's mom's death, the way they presented it in the dub, when he first realized that it was the day before, it seemed like he actually forgot, because he was saying that saying that, have I forgotten something? It feels like I forgot something. Then he looks at the date and is like, oh yeah, that's right. However, in the Japanese version, they don't really verbalize the fact that he forgot something. They just say that he just says, there's been a lot going on. Then he looks at his watch, and it shows that he comes to the remembrance that it's the eve before his mom's death. So they really do a lot more show, don't tell in the Japanese version of it.
And that seems to be happening quite a lot between the Japanese version and the dub, doesn't it? Where we need things vocalized because we're stupid, and the Japanese can pick up on subtle hints.
Mm-hmm.
Or because the target audience is younger. It's unclear.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah,
in
I think
Japanese
that's
culture it's
more of the
all about
reason.
subtlety. They have subtlety in pretty much anything and everything you do, and it's like part of their nature to read between the lines. So I think they're
Yeah,
definitely playing
but
in on
also
that.
what Del said, kids definitely don't pick up on that.
Yeah.
So it is that. I think that is that for the wider range of audiences. I find that a lot of the things that they've added or taken away is literally to broaden that audience spectrum, because obviously kids are, if they, even though they intended it for teens and probably older, everything they've done is literally to encompass that younger generation of people to be able to watch it, because they know that if they can't get the teens, they'll definitely get the kids.
I mean, it's
So,
a 15 though. It's rated a 15. So how young a kids are we talking here?
I
They were
actually
aiming
wonder
at
what
I
it's
know,
rated in
but-
America now that I think about it. I'm not sure, because I know they showed it on Adult Swim, which is, there's a network called Cartoon Network here that had like a late night portion that started at 10 p.m. And that's where I think it aired a lot of the time in America. But that's where it was airing when I was like middle school, high school. So possibly when it was first airing, circa the early 2000s, possibly as it was airing on a different network.
Yeah, but you find
It might have
kids
been, yeah.
still.
I'm not sure actually.
I mean, do you guys have Watershed? Is that something that you have over in America?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, Watershed. So we call something pre-Watershed or Watershed over here. I don't know where that name comes from, but it means something that is on before 9 p.m. at night must not contain any swearing, blood, guns.
Yeah, we have. We kind of have
but
that.
then after 9
We have a
p.m. at night.
suggestion of that on some channels is kind of what we have.
Right, okay. So anything that would be on after 9 p.m. at night, you can go crazy with the sex, guns, violence, blah, 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 blah. And you tended to find that's when, like, things like Bleach was never on my standard channels ever. I didn't discover it until as an adult, because probably it was on after my bedtime, which was Watershed after 9 p.m. at night. So
Okay.
and I know that Tokyo Ghoul for a fact is on pre-Watershed, because I discovered that about 2 years ago, and it was on at 2 a.m. 2 a.m. it is over here, so that children can't watch it.
Okay.
So
Good, yeah.
I just think the cultural differences are quite interesting.
Well, and actually, speaking of cultural differences, I'm wondering too if it's different cultural attitudes towards violence specifically that might be impacting this, because Bleach is pretty solidly and like I mean, there are other subtle elements of genre within it, but it's pretty action heavy. Like, it's a shonen, right? Like, it's action, adventure, punching things, killing things, all of that
But
stuff
Dragon
happens
Ball Z
on
was
Bleach.
on during the day. Dragon Ball Z, I watched.
Dragon Ball Z about the kids rather than Dragon Ball about the adults, though.
Well, yeah, no, Dragon Ball was never on, but Dragon Ball Z was.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of punching and blood and everything, and I think it was knives and the sword.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is I'm wondering whether America's attitude is a little bit more low-key toward violence, and so an American translator might be okay with a show that has blood and swords and all that. And so
Because I know in Australia,
they might be like, okay, cool,
we
they
were
can translate
very
this.
lenient. I mean, freaking Deadpool was everywhere else it's R-rated, but it's MA-15 in Australia because we don't give a shit.
Thinking about Deadpool though, like a big part of Deadpool is like rude humor and swear words, which for Australians is like a pretty cultural norm in my understanding.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, so it depends on the country, because obviously it's 15, it's rated 15 plus. But I still think it would have been aired the same time as Naruto would have been. I don't remember. It was a very long time ago, and I never watched it on Cartoon Network. I watched it on disc. But yeah, I don't think it's. It depends on the country, because I'm pretty sure that over here it wouldn't be as big of an issue. I mean, if we can get Deadpool to be plus, so 15-year-olds can see it in cinema. Or six, I don't remember what. Yeah, I'm fairly sure that in Australia it wouldn't be an issue at all.
This also might be a super small thing, but here we've got our cutoff-ish before you get to what we'd call an R-rated movie is PG-13. So we draw a distinction at 13 years old, and there isn't really a distinction again until you're 18.
So yeah, I guess
that's with
that
film in
cultural thing.
particular, but Yeah, we've got like little kids, and then we've got like older kids might want to watch this with their parents, but maybe not. And then there's like, hey, you shouldn't see that until you're 13. And then there's, hey, you're not getting into the cinema until you're 18. And that's kind of our. And then there's, you know, X-rated other stuff that isn't really shown in theaters or on TV anyway. So that's kind of what we've got.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
See, we've got our ones. We've got a 12, and then 15, and then 18 plus.
Yeah. So you got your general audience. So your general audience PG-13, then MA-15 plus for us, and then R 18 plus. So that's because like obviously Bleach and Naruto would be around the same kind of violence and stuff. And Naruto was shown at like 8 o'clock, I think. So yeah, it wouldn't have been an issue in Australia at all. That's why I say that 12-year-olds are probably watching Bleach, and they wouldn't be able to get that. Those subtlety, because I know that I didn't. Well, I did more than my brother because I have a issue like with perception and everything. But my brother wouldn't have got it because you know, young kids just don't. So I think that is also another thing of why they voice it so much. But yeah, not wanting to linger on that too much.
So I'm just having a little look at that, but I'm having a look at some of the Naruto ratings, and the ratings for Naruto for the DVDs that we can buy in the UK, we're looking at about a 12, which would probably be about the same.
Part of me is wondering whether it's just because the main characters in Naruto are just a couple years younger, at least in the beginning. I know it's a small thing, and they're still, like, I mean, we can talk about the problems of child soldiers all day, but I wonder if there's a level of, like, oh, they're smaller, and the animation style is, like, slightly cuter, I guess. They look more childlike.
I wonder as well if maybe they cut some of the specifically bad scenes out so that they could get it for a younger audience, so that they could air it over here pre-Watershed. So maybe they made some slight potential changes there. Because I do remember seeing Naruto on, and I do remember seeing One Piece on as well, but never Bleach.
Huh.
Which I thought was very interesting.
Because a lot of places will say that it's not a 15 plus anime, it's more for middle school kids. So that's literally been a review for Bleach for a very long time, which is again why people think that anime is like a kids thing, because for a very long time people do think that Bleach is for middle schoolers, and you know, they don't actually realize that it is actually kind of that 15 plus genre, because especially later on, like, get rid of the first season or even the second season, it gets dark and it gets worse, like in that rating where it would be definitely 15, 16 plus, but really it's being catered as a middle school. Well, I don't really know what age that is because middle school doesn't mean anything to me, but like primary schoolers, and like, no, that's still, you know what I mean, you know, that young age of 12 and 13-year-olds would watch it. It's so hard I don't even know what age middle school is. I'm confused Australian over here.
In America, it's like roughly 11 to roughly 13.
Okay, so thought so.
Yeah.
So around there. So that's what it was always reviewed as. I mean, I watched it at age 11, 12, you know, it was fine for us. We literally watched it at school at that age.
That would never have happened
it's
to
not
us here,
very
definitely
much.
not.
No, but that's what I mean. So, like, in different places, it's a completely normal anime. Like, we're really very lax on our ratings, I think. Anyway, so, I mean, going back on a Deadpool, it's literally, they made it MA 15 plus so that everyone was able to watch it easier than 18 plus. So, there you go. There's a snippet into Australians freaking thinking what's best for the world.
And the UK and stuff as well, but it was interesting. Sorry for that giant tangent, though. That was partly my fault. I'm just thinking, like, for all the differences that we've seen in the manga versus the anime versus the dub and the sub, it's just interesting to see what words are taken out, what words are left in, how much blood they've cut from the manga, and you know, it's just, I find it very, very, very interesting. So anyway, will we come on to our diving into the Dankai section?
Yeah, so
I know we've not really
there's
got a
no
lot
real
for it,
news
but-
this week, but we do have some interesting stuff that we want to talk about that happened on the Discord server. So I'm going to shoot that one over to Elv.
I was going to say, I will happily take that one over. So obviously, since there's not going to be updates every single week for the Bleach news. We'll keep you updated when and if anything big happens, but for now, I thought that we would just talk about the lovely happenings in the server. Totally not just to coax you into our madness, but so recently, as VC is always completely off the hook all the time, we've... I don't even know where to begin to explain.
You're going to have to tell us where this joke started, because I woke up at like 7 a.m. I looked on my phone and all I could see was bread, and I'm like, what the hell is happening?
This is also going to be news to me. I've never heard this story before, so...
Okay, listen. We're adults, I promise.
Legally.
Arguable.
All of us in UC are literally 19 and above. Most of us are in our 20s, yet... Yeah, apparently the entire server turned into Seireitei, as I was so asking the admins, but they rudely denied me the right to rename the server to the Seireitei. But, so we were a colony of bread. If anybody's been on Facebook lately, it's got nothing to do with the joke, but if anyone's been on Facebook to be in a group where we all pretend to be ants in a colony, then you won't find this as weird as it's going to sound. It wasn't based off of that, but it turned into it. So my friends were, I don't know where they got it from either. I think it was maybe a typo or something, but they kept saying, I'm bread of you, like I'm proud of you, but with bread, and I didn't get it. And I was making fun of this thing that I didn't understand by, because I was currently listening to Boy with Love by BTS. We're not going to go into that. But I then remixed it to Boy with Bread by BTS, but not BTS Bang 10 Lehan, but Bread the Sins. So we had this entire big laughing joke of me singing Boy with Bread, and then me being the dog that I am, changed my name to Bread Sugaya, and then proceeded to draw Toshira's hair on a bread loaf and make it my profile picture, because yes, I go that far
really
for jokes,
cute.
apparently.
It was very cute.
And then
it's so cute,
I'll show you a photo. I'll show you a photo.
You have to post that onto the Instagram.
I couldn't help myself.
Yeah! Oh my gosh, everybody, follow our Instagram at TheSeireitei if you want to see Elves Bread Sugaya.
Yeah.
Like, I take my jokes to extremes when I'm in a good mood, so I thought it was a great idea. Let's, we'll paint on Toshira's hair onto a cute bread loaf that I found on the internet. And then I started, because I have mod powers, because apparently somebody thought it was a good idea to give me that, I started changing everyone's name into bread-related things. There was Bread, then there was Brevin for Kevin, there was just anything you can think of bread-related, everyone's name was. And then our poor admins came back into the chat. Geisha was the first to notice, and because I wished I might have a very bready birthday, because it was
no clue
his
what was
birthday
happening
that day. And Geisha made the mistake of saying she didn't want to know what this was about. So I immersed her into the bullshit that was us dorks in the voice chat, and and then we were promptly shoved into an oven after Lethan told me to go take a loaf
Everybody
off,
got
and
baked.
I said I'd like to, but then who would butter the brethren? But so we're all toasted for that, and then we had an entire day of bread. Everything was bread related. It was bread-tastic, and I would not change for the world. But we're slowly going back to normal. We're all slowly starting to get rid of that.
We had
the yeast is gone. We're kind of dead.
All the puns.
We got eaten.
They started.
They
started to grow a little bit.
And before that,
they started to get a little bit crusty though.
I will send you screenshots.
Yeah, I'll
screenshots. And then, like a week before this, we were cringing everybody about the Ulus, because don't even ask me if that one started. But yeah, so Ulus was another theme apparently that we had, and everyone was Ulu related. Because we are that cringy. But so if you want to join our next bullshit that we'll plague the server with and stress out the admins, because yes, I'm a great mod that way, then you should definitely join us. See what other great crap that we bring up next time. It's going to be a running theme apparently, because so that's the fun things that Bleach community brings together. It brings together all the dorks into one room where we can just mess everything up. Because apparently we have that power.
Yeah, and then do you know what the admins see? As long as it's fun and it's lighthearted, which bread is, bread's not really a triggering thing for a lot of people. So as long as it's something fun and lighthearted like that, then the admins, when we come on, even though we'll be very confused at first, because it always happens through the night. It's always with Elv, and we always wake up and we're like, "What's happening?" But we'll, if it's harmless, we'll go along with it. So that's when
we
general
got
chat
cooked.
became oven
That's
chat,
not
and
harmless.
it's
that was brutally painful.
It's fun. You missed so much. It was. Yeah, it was. It was breadily painful. Okay, right. Anyway, so that was the diving into the Dunkai news, but we've still got our favourite thing to chat about in the fandom. So I don't know, Shiki, do you want to lead us off with your favourite thing?
So my favorite thing was from a Twitter user, IG Vinyl Alchemist. He made custom Funko Pops for some Bleach characters.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Nice.
Is that Toshiro?
There is.
If there isn't, we buy it.
There's no Toshiro, unfortunately.
There's no
Can I spam her?
I
Give me
don't
the
even have
details.
to ask because there's never Ukitake.
Give me the details so I can spam for Toshiro and Ichigo and Shirasaki.
So the ones he made was a Hollow Mask Ichigo with a Bankai.
Midi,
And
if you're
it
listening.
actually looks pretty good. He made an Ukiora.
Oh.
Ooh.
Of course, he made a Byakuya. He made a Shunshi, or if I can pronounce this name.
Yoraku.
Shunsui.
Yeah, Yoraku.
Yeah.
We'll always help you.
And a Kimpachi.
Cool.
Oh, it's cool because there's only 4 pops of Bleach, like literal pops that I know of. There is a Hollow Ichigo one, which is very expensive. Now, if you didn't get it when it was circulating, there is a Grimjow one. There is but there's way more than that. There's Ichigo, there's Rukia. There are 2 versions of Renji. There's one with his Bankai and one without.
Listen,
so that's like
unless you say Toshiro, I don't care.
I know. Believe me,
they're all dead to
I
me.
wanted a Toshiro and a Rukia one.
The little Bankai one is really cute.
It's very cute.
I was going to get the Nano Droid of Toshiro, but I didn't have the money at the time to spend $50 on it, but I should have. I'm regretting it. But anyway, continue with your thing, Jiki. I'm just going to complain there's no Toshiro for a bit.
That's really all I had with it. I'm definitely going to hope that with Bleach's announced return, we're going to see a resurgence of Bleach Funko Pops and hopefully
just merch in general.
All the characters.
Yes, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, so Toshiro merch would be really brilliant. Like the most I have other than posters is I've got him on my glasses case, and I have a pocket watch with Toshiro, which you can't get anywhere now. Like.
Wow.
I treasure that thing. Like it's made of gold, even though it's just a cheap pocket watch that doesn't work anymore because I can't put a battery in it. But I will treasure it. I haven't even taken the plastic thing off of the glass on it. It's my it's my prized possession, and if the house burns down, I'll take that with me.
All right, Elv, do you want to just take us through what you've got then that you're loving this week?
Honestly, I don't have much other than the server. I guess the server's just what I've been loving. I've kind of been a bit out of the like the Tumblrs and all the sites to find anything because I've just been so busy. But I will say that chapter 2 of the fic I mentioned last week will hopefully be written soon, so I'm excited for that. Another shout out to Nova because I want my chapter. I need my chapter. If you're listening to this, come on. I love you.
Stop using the podcast to bully our writers. Dale, what are you loving this week?
Yeah, this week, I just wanted to give a shout out to one of my favorite visual artists on Tumblr. Their work is other places as well, but I came to know them through Tumblr. I've never said your URL out loud, so if this is incorrect, please at me later. But this person's URL is @Freudhood, FREUDHOOD. I think they have quite a few followers, and I know that if you follow them, they've reached the max capacity of people that they're allowed to follow, so they can't follow you back now, which is a little rough. But they're super, super active, both in Bleach and other fandoms. they're a French art student, which you can learn if you read their bio on Tumblr. And I first came to be aware of their work through a lot of their shunuki, which is Shonsui Kyoraku and Ukitake Jushiro as a ship, or as a friendship. Sometimes it's romantic, sometimes it's platonic. A lot of their work that featured both of those characters, or sometimes each of them individually, because of course that was like the first OTP that I fell head first into when I started becoming more involved in Bleach fandom. I really like their style. It's very classic, and it's just so you can feel the emotion of the people that this artist draws. In particular, when they do like solo shots of Shunsui, like there's a level of flow, but also like hidden pain, but also play. It's really layered, and I don't know. I mean, to each their own, but their
We'll
style
leave
just
all
really,
the
really
links as
speaks
well
to
in
me.
we'll put the links in the summary this time.
Yeah.
So for anybody that's going through the summary notes, we'll leave the links to everything in there.
They do a lot of work, like Marauders era Harry Potter stuff is something they do a lot of as well. Some Les Mis stuff every now and then. They dabble in a few different fandoms, but their style is consistent more or less across. I don't know. They might like at me later for saying that and be and I might be describing their style completely incorrectly because I'm super not a visual artist.
But I mean, it's what you interpret, though, so technically not.
Yeah. But anyway, so they're also, like, full disclosure, they are one of the first people that I was like, oh yeah, I think this person is a Tumblr friend. So like we've collabed before. They were reading my writing and I was admiring their visual work. So, and we're both Shunsui and Kyoraku shippers or like explorers. I'll probably say more about that at some point, whether or not I ship them romantically anymore. So yeah, that's my rec for both the week and like all time. Freudhood, FREUDHOOD on Tumblr.
Smashing. Mine's is actually a visual artist as well. My shout out is going to Ammsterdamn, who is a visual artist on DeviantArt, and that was where I first discovered his work. He is in our Discord server, he's just not super active, but he will do commissions if you drop him a line. So I discovered him when he'd done this beautiful picture of Renji, actually. So when we say Ammsterdamn, it's spelled AMMSTERDAMN. So I will leave the links to his stuff down in the summary as well. But you've done this fantastic piece of Renji, and it looks like it could have been drawn by Kubo himself. Like that is how pristine this drawing is. It's got a very beautiful background to it. It's got like really nice grey clouds, which makes his hair and the white top that he's wearing just pop. And I just love the stance that he's put this character in. It's so well done, and when I saw that, I instantly fell in love with this artist, because I as somebody that can't do art, I love people that can do art. So I messaged him straight away and I was like, right, are you open for commissions? And he was like, oh, I've never really done commissions before. So we started down that whole process, and now I've been working with this artist and commissioning him for well over a year now, actually, for Bleach related content. So he's done some outstanding pieces himself for Gin and Matsumoto and Ichigo and all the other Bleach characters, as well as other anime characters as well. But then you'll always see the ones I've managed to coerce him or pay him to do for me, because they're usually Toshiro, Rukia, or Rangiku related. But yeah, this picture in particular is so well done that I will definitely be encouraging the Instagram owners, which is Dale and Geisha, to maybe potentially give this another little nudge on the stories or something on the Instagram page too.
We'll reach out.
Yeah, smashing. And that was my thing that I loved. So I think we got a recommendation for what to call the award section of our podcast, and this comes from Naomi, so we'll see how everybody feels about this. Naomi had recommended that we call it the Shinigami Cup Peroxide Edition. So instead of Bleach, we've gone with Peroxide.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Honestly, we should have called this podcast the Peroxide Edition.
We should have actually. We should have. That would have been really funny. Anyway, so we're going to start with our Who Wore It the Best. So who wants to start us off with Who Wore It the Best?
I've got one, if I would be able to start. So, the one who wore it the best would be definitely Rukia with her beautiful leeches. She wore them very lovely.
You took mine.
At least we share the same visual tastes.
You could say those accessories made an explosive entrance.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They were just absolutely a bomb.
Oh god, right, we're not going to leech that joke anymore. Dale.
Oh no, definitely not.
Yeah, my best dressed of the week was Urahara Kisuke wearing his big dad energy at the beginning of episode 7. I know I mentioned it once already, but I just thought it was so sweet.
Oh, so it was very cute actually. And you know, something in the manga sprung out a little bit more to me as well is that you see, and I know you see, is it Uru? What's her name? Ururu. You see her flinch in the anime, but you see her flinch a lot more in the manga, making me wonder, where did she come from? You know, what kind of abusive past. Anyway, that was a whole thing.
We can talk a lot about that later. I'm just saying, I don't think she chose to make her bangs go. I think she and Kisuke have the same bangs, and I don't think that's a coincidence, and we can come back to that later.
So my award for this has to go to Cone and his teddy plushie that the mod soul is wearing. I thought that he wears that teddy plushie very well. It suits him.
You're right, though.
What about our
ship
ships?
would be the next one. Yep. So, my absolute favourite ship would definitely be the Hollow's face in that light pole or that television pole. Like that's a nice ship. You know, that they just melded so well together. You know, and it was a perfect fit. You know, it couldn't be any better.
You could say they hit it off.
Oh, definitely. It was just groundbreaking relationship.
Oh my god.
So for my best ship, that would be Ichigo in the fetal position. You know that they were made for each other.
Definitely. It's also my secret love too, other than Sprinto in our server.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, whoa. My best ship of the week. This was before I knew what our delving into the Dangai segment was gonna be about, by the way. My best ship of the week was Orahime's lunch one day, which was bread and red bean paste. Which I actually don't think would make a bad dessert sandwich. So
it's not the worst that she's made. It's not the worst.
True. But like that was something she brought, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? I wouldn't not."
Sometimes I think she's secretly high. Like, that girl just makes some weird food.
That's true. I could see that. She's just permanently stoned.
I think she's just
from the smell of Ichigo.
Yeah, exactly. So my ship for this time goes to Urahara and his name Hatton Clogs. I think that suits him very well. So that was more springing up from the manga than it was from the actual anime, but I still count it because I was like, yeah, that's a ship made in heaven.
I don't think he's good called anything else really. So I totally agree. So then the double take, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was that our last one? Mine was definitely Ichigo ripping the Hollow's tongue out. I had to do a double take with that because I was just like, holy shit, mate. Like, whoa. Materini, that was some, you know, freaking flip side personality, like, in Ichigo. Like, we've seen him be violent, but holy shit. Like, that smirk that will become very iconic later on. Like, oof.
Yeah, very well done.
So for my double take, it was when we saw the kids playing on the Game Boy Advances. Mainly because I had to remember exactly how old I am.
Don't make me feel old too.
We're all old.
It's been 8 years! Sorry.
Hey, we're not as old as Rukia, so we
That's
got that
true.
I feel it.
For us, maybe? Oh, yikes. I feel like we've been running around in this terrible Giga for 20-odd years.
Oh, honestly.
Oh, boy. My double take moment, again, I think I'm finding a lot of my double take moments are plot related or foreshadowing related elements that I maybe didn't catch the first time I was watching. This one comes from my, like, he's rising up in the ranks as one of my new faves, Ishin Kurosaki. Speaking on the phone when he's at the clinic and he's got those patients coming in, one of whom is later revealed to be Chad. He's like, I don't have enough beds for these people. I need them to go to the hospital. And he's on the phone with a hospital and he says, tell your boss this is a request from Ishin Kurosaki. And I was like,
you know why though?
Yeah, no, well, I'd never caught that before. I did clock last time when we were watching the beginning. I was like, okay, I never realized that Ishin is in the medical profession in that way. This is fully a foreshadowing thing, and I don't want to be too specific about it.
Pushes
For folks that haven't
glasses
seen.
up with knowledge.
Well,
I just understood this.
yeah, no, exactly. So like
Why
that
did I not
level
get
of
this
parallel,
before?
it's because it's subtle, and when you first watch, you're not looking out for it. But I thought it was.
Whoa,
That's
wait, actually, that makes that
potentially-
insult 100 times better of the
It
staff.
does, doesn't
Because
it?
you know damn well.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sorry for folks that haven't seen the anime all the way through or read the manga all the way through yet. That double take is probably not going to sound super exciting, but I clocked big time that Ishin was on the phone and felt like he could call in favors with the boss of a nearby hospital. So that was my double take moment.
I love that one. That was a really good one. And it's something we will discuss. We will definitely discuss. Double take for me this time, and it comes actually to my favourite Bleach OST, and it is, or section of the OST, it is in Nothing Can Be Explained, and it hits so beautifully when Ichigo says, tomorrow's the anniversary of my mother's death, and then we get that beautiful rain and this haunting music that just is one of my favourite, in fact it is my ultimate favourite Bleach music playing in the background, and that whole scene is so well done and so hauntingly beautiful, where you've got Orihime hanging out the window wishing she could connect people like the rain connects, and that whole scene, that whole moment of realisation of, oh yeah, well we now find out, or we're finding out about his mother, with this music in the background was my double take.
Oh,
so
that's
well
a good
done.
one.
And it's just nice to call out and call relevance to Bleach's amazing soundtrack, because it has got one
definitely.
of the best soundtracks of any anime I've ever watched ever. Not that I've watched loads, but you know, like of the ones I have seen, Bleach's soundtrack is definitely up there. So before we go and we start talking about, well, in fact, we'll do our socials first. So if anybody is wanting to find us, the links to all of our personal socials and things will be included in the description or the summary for this. But the Seireitei, you can find us at just searching TheSeireitei on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram. You can come and follow us on all of those platforms as well. And then Del, what is our next episodes that we're going to be watching?
Ooh, yes. So our next episode is going to be episodes 8, 9, and 10 of the anime together. And that's going to kind of start and end another little mini arc for y'all.
Which I'm very excited for. So guys, please come and find us on the Discord server if you want to come and hang out. You can chat about the podcast, you can chat about the fandom, fan fictions, art, anything at all. We're there, we're on board for it. So you can come and hang out with us and find all of our socials, as well as the socials to the people that we called out as well, and our favourites down in the summary for this episode. Any last things you guys want to add?
I have a comment. This could, depending on how the comment goes, you can either cut it or you can leave it in. But I was actually going to have a kind of a, because of how much we really wanted to talk about certain things that were spoilers and it was so frustrating, I was thinking that perhaps a nice idea would be to maybe towards the middle of the season that we get to, or even at the end of a season, we just have a episode where we just talk. It's a complete spoiler episode for the people who've been here before and know the entire anime and are rewatching it with us to have that nostalgia, that we talk everything through, like the things we picked
Theories
up on
and
that we never did.
I like that a lot.
Actually completely like bring it back to that, like the things that we mentioned that we noticed that like completely lead into like future episodes, like those moments of boom, my brain just exploded moments, so we don't have to censor ourselves. So if this doesn't get cut, this would probably just be my moment of saying that if anyone has an opinion of if they will want that, I know I definitely would, because to be able to talk just openly and candidly about everything, because obviously some people listening to this might have already watched Bleach and they don't want that whole even though you guys are sitting there with us going, yeah, I know what you're talking about, just an episode like
I think we would have to watch I think I'm all for this except the 1,000-Year Blood War, because I know Shiki has not read the 1,000-Year Blood War, and I know some of the people have not or do not read the manga.
Oh no, just for the anime. Just
for the anime,
for the anime. Because I haven't watched
so yeah, everything but the final arc then.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, that
just
works.
Everything that's in the anime, and just have a moment of just being able to draw those parallels between, Ishin now and what happens later, and, all of these things, just being able to have a candid talk together, just for the people who've been here forever and who need that moment of just, let's all just say, fuck yeah, I remember that now, and this makes sense, that getting that hype, giving you that excitement back to this anime, because you've got all these plot holes that some aren't actually plot holes, there's still too many plot holes, but some that actually make sense now that you're re-watching it, that say, oh, that makes more sense now, it made no sense to me at the beginning, just have that community of being able to do that, would be...
Yeah. No, I think we should maybe put that out to the listeners. Yeah, maybe ask the listeners then, anybody that wants to, if you've got any comments on that, let us know on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, come find us in the Discord server, come and chat to us if you would like to see something like that, or maybe you don't want us to do something like that, but I'm happy for every, like at the end of each season or whatever, we do a full spoiler episode where we get to talk about it and we just take notes.
Yeah, it'd obviously be labelled completely the spoiler chat, or we'll come up with some cheesy name for it, but it would definitely be specific, like just a complete overview, and like just an anime overview, really, even just with the manga up to it, but like a complete, just every season, like what in the season did you have those aha moments, just talking about like Ichigo's character development would be like an amazing thing, and even other characters as we get into the other seasons.
Yeah, I think let's put it out to the listeners. Let's get that feedback. But anything else we want to add on before we finish up, guys?
Nope.
All good? Cool. Excellent. All right then, guys. So you know where to find us all, and we will see you in the next episode. But until then, see you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Bye.